The Aussie Mix and Fix series heads to Suzuka for round number 10 of the championship here on Apex Racing TV. My name's Scott Newton. Alongside me tonight, as always, is Daniel Lee. Sadly, Jonathan Simon couldn't make it tonight, but welcome, Daniel. As always, we've got two fantastic splits here tonight. Suzuka, one of the twisty and challenging tracks, but yeah, what are your thoughts heading into tonight's 45-minute race?
Yeah, good evening, Scott, and all the viewers tuning in tonight on Apex TV. Yeah, certainly very much looking forward to tonight here at Suzuka. It's a great circuit. We've seen it last week in the IMSA series, and great to be back here this week for the mixed and fixed. And the guys out there already starting to set some cracking times. And if anything's to go by from what we saw last week out here, we're in for a great night of racing.
Yeah, absolutely. Last week at Sebring had the very much a challenging track in the fact that it was quite bumpy, but in saying that though, still got a fairly bumpy track here, but it's much more contained here with the tight and twisty nature heading through Sector 1, up through the S's all the way through Dunlop Curve, through the Denver section, and then all the way through up to Spoon Curve, and then pretty much just a long back straight, couple of overtaking opportunities as well into 130R and into the Casio Triangle. So we're just about to wrap up the warm-up session at the moment, currently going on at the moment. In saying that though, we've got Lee Vanderberg currently on the provisional fastest time, but yeah, the pre-qualifying server that was just before this will be able to bring you the grid pretty much straight after the conclusion of the warm-up.
And looking at the lap times that the guys are already putting in, we got a couple of chaps, Lee Vandenborough and Rob Gray, already down in the 1 minute 54 second time, so really, really quick out of the gate in both those cars. Rob Gray with that great looking giraffe Porsche 911. A couple of the guys a little further back, not too far off at all. The pace only a couple of tenths slower, and they're down in the 155s. Our leading GT3 car at the moment, as we say, currently in place by Matt Allison for Race on Oz. He's just come through with a 158.42, so really setting a good time in the BMW Z4 tonight.
Yeah, I was actually wondering where Matt Allison was. He was just quite a long way down the timing screen, but yeah, as you say, putting in that blistering lap time for 58.4. Got 28 cars registered for the top split tonight, so should be quite a lot of action going on tonight. We saw earlier on in the week on Apex Racing TV where we covered the IMSA Sports Car Championship, where the BMW and the Ferrari were very, very quick at Suzuka, but also the Porsche was able to put in a challenge as well. As I say, that Craig Edwards has been able to put in an overall fastest time of 1 minute 54.38.
And having said that too, I mean, we look at the top three podiums in GT3 or GTE, right now, and it is a different car from each manufacturer. So Craig Edwards, like you say, out front, Lee Vanderbilt in the BMW sitting second, and then Rob Gray in that Porsche in third. So all cars very equally matched around here, which is surprising given the nature of the circuit. I would strongly expect, similar to what we saw in IMSA, the Ferrari, the BMW, probably to be the standout, but with those couple of really tight spots up through Hairpin and then getting out of the Casio Triangle, the Porsche is certainly going to come into its own there.
Yeah, I was just going to quickly look at the weather for tonight's race as well. Looks to say that it's a evening time of day in the server, so I can find the button to bring up the weather. Here we go. So local time in sim is 5:42 p.m. We've got a ambient temperature of 23 degrees with a track temperature of 26. With a wind speed of 14 kilometers an hour in a northerly direction. So it's actually quite blustery out there today, so it should provide some challenge for the drivers with the car stepping out throughout the circuit.
Absolutely, and I mean, given that it is a FX setup, the guys really don't have a lot they can do to sort of mitigate that. What they will need to do is obviously keep the cars under them throughout that and try and drive around those conditions. But the other thing we must quickly touch on before the grid starts to form up for tonight, it is a 45-minute race with one mandatory pit stop. So we will see everyone in both categories come down the lane for that stop. And I think looking at what we've seen traditionally out of this series, everyone tries to run as long as possible unless you maybe get stuck in those little battles and you try and do the undercut, which has paid off to some extent, but may not all the way around, especially around Suzuka where it is heavy on the tyres.
So with the warm-up finally coming to its conclusion, we'll be able to bring you the starting grid for tonight's 45-minute race. And on pole position, we have Steve Lattimore, and alongside him will be Matt Morris. In the second row will be Justin Wallace and Craig Edwards. On the third row, William Mitchell and Jeremy Clark, Rob Gray, Kenneth Latta in the fourth row, Lee Vandenberg and Adam Gardner rounding out the top 10. Gardner having a very strong performance last week at Sebring. Benjamin Faulkner and Pat Gallo rounding out the sixth row and the GTE field. In the GT3 field, Matt Allison will be starting on the pole position. Damon Mulqueen alongside him in the second position in class. Martin Casey, Andrea Cherisara in the fourth position. Martin Crisp, Scott Gamble, Sal Galenti, Damon Stockton, Alexander Newton, and Dave Trevathan rounding out the top 10. Grant Matterford in 11th position. Nick Sanfilippo and Jason Markowski, Michael Whiting, Ray Clark rounding out the field of 27 drivers.
As the guys start making their way around, just to get ready for the drop of the green flag, we can see the GTE cars starting to get a little bit of a gap now and get that separation between the two categories. The Porsche safety car not too far off coming in here, and we're looking forward to a great night of racing. 12 cars, GTE field, and then another 14 in the GT3s.
So a very, very short pace lap, we'll be able to get ourselves underway very, very quickly, and we'll be under the control of Steve Lattimore. As he takes the green flag, he'll get a great start. Matt Morris will be starting in the second position. Looks as though they're going to go pretty much single file. We're going to go too wide in the back, and Lattimore will lead into turn one, challenging is Wallace and Morris behind. In the GT3 field, we've got Matt Allison getting the jump on Damon Mulqueen, who I think started in the second position as well, so not many positions traded at the start, but it said that Damon Stockton was able to jump one position up into 19th as well. We got one car off. I think that is Damon Mulqueen, who lost 3 positions from this going wide at the exit of turn 1.
Yeah, it's a very tidy start for all categories. Both lots managing to get down single file. Matt Morris doing a really good job early on to keep his spot into second place. But then the guys in the GTE3 field, as we got Matt Allison up on screen now, she's got a fantastic jump, and the first 2 spots already taken up by the BMWs. Behind that, a couple of Mercedes trying to get back up the field, but Allison already starting to extend his lead now, half a second in the first half corners, really.
Yeah, sorry, also the timing screen that Jeremy Clark lost 6 positions, so he must have run wide off of the middle part of the lap through the S's and up into Dunlop curve, so he finds himself in 12th position at the moment at the back of the GTE field. But just looking back up the front of the GTE field, Matt Morris has a little bit of a gap ahead to Stephen Lattimore, who's been able to get the field a little bit, but Justin Wallace from Race on Oz is putting all sorts of pressure on him, the BMR Porsche, and also Craig was trying to look around the outside, but not able to get the run on Wallace.
Yeah, Morris looking really, really good right now. Taking a lot of curb getting up through the Casio triangle there, which didn't really affect the car as much as we may have thought. But he's been able to hold off Wallace and Edwards just behind. But certainly a lot of Ferraris here trying to make their way through, and Morris really doing a fantastic job to hold that spot. A little further down, we've got Adam Gardner, who's a little further down probably than what we've traditionally seen in the series, especially the last couple of races at Silverstone and Sebring last week. But he'll still come back through. He's really good with his race strategy, so we know he can come up. But he's got a couple of 10-second or couple of seconds, or tenths of a second, sorry, gap to Stephen Larder just in front of him.
Yeah, Gardner up 3 positions from where he started, so he's had a solid first lap and a half. Also, the biggest mover in the GT3 field at this time is Damon Stockton in his BMW as well. He's up 2 positions from where he started.
Yeah, I think with everyone sitting single file right now, these gaps, especially up in the GTE field, not really going to come down too much. Looks like we've got William Mitchell trying to close up on the back of Craig Edwards, who in turn still working on the back of Justin Wallace at front. So the Porsche's looking quite handy around here, even though we've got three of the top 5 as Ferraris. The 2 Porsches still up in that category, certainly starting to come into their own. And I think later on in this race, we're really going to see the benefit of those cars.
Yeah, certainly with the tight and twisting nature of this circuit, the Porsche will be heavily favoured here with its overall grip that it's able to produce as well. I see that it's Adam Gardner trying to put the move on Kenneth Ladder, not close enough into 130R, but he's going to move up the inside, and it's going to be a great move for him up into the 6th position. See that 10th Ladder also moving down a couple of positions as well, whether he got a slowdown penalty or was not feeling confident through there to get the power down, and has lost a couple of more positions.
Yeah, that move from Gardner going through has actually extended a little bit of a gap between himself and Rob Gray. That's now up to 1.2 seconds as a result of that. So Gardner doing a fantastic job down the inside through the triangle. He'll now turn his eyes forward. He's got Mitch Williams just ahead of him in the Pulse Racing Porsche there. So something to keep an eye on.
Just seen a bit of an incident in the GT3 field. Looks as though that there's... I thought it might have been a little bit of lap traffic, but everyone seemed to be checking up, and that was Damon Mulqueen that lost quite a lot of positions. He's at the back of the GT3 field now. So we'll just take a quick look at that back, see if we can go on board. So it looks as though the Mercedes ahead didn't get the best run through 130R, and Mulqueen was not far enough up the inside, and yeah, unfortunately had a bit of contact. But,
yeah, a little bit of that was a bit of an unfortunate one there. It looks like he's got back out though from pit lane. He will be a long way down, already half a lap down to the remaining GT3 cars around him, and looks like a couple of other guys that suffered pretty substantial damage in that. Looks like Dave Trevathan's dropped down a couple of spots as well, and the Stealth Simforce Mercedes caught him in the background there, but bit of a beneficiary out of that. Damon Stockton up 4 spots as a result, sitting in 4th in class now.
Yeah, it's great to see that Damon has been able to profit from that incident from Mulqueen, who sadly has a 6.7 second gap to Charisara up ahead, but still well within the fight for the podium should the top 3 have any issues. See that yeah, Trevathan, Galenti, Newton and Sanfilippo in this battle for 6th, 7th, 8th and 9th in GT3.
And that bit of damage that Trevathan's got on the front nose there shouldn't impede him too much on pace. We've got Galenti dropping into the pit lane now, so that's probably still too early realistically to get away with just the one stop tonight, but he's come down, so we'll see how long he's stationary for. But Trevathan's going to have his work cut out for him now. He's got Adam Newton just behind him, Alex Newton just behind him, and the Mercedes doesn't look to have lost a lot of power, but that little bit of damage certainly will be a little off-putting for him.
Yeah, I know that the series has a fixed setup, but I'm not exactly sure whether they've got a fixed fuel tank once they pit. So it'll be interesting to see. I see that Galenti's taken a 13-second pit stop, so that'll be just fuel. So he'll, by looking at that, he'll be able to make it to the end from that. I know that in the BMW GTE, they're restricted to about 45 litres, so about 50% of the tank.
Yeah, well, if he's able to get the fuel in now, he should be good to go. We need to have a look back up towards the front of the field. Looks like we've still got some battling going on here with Justin Wallace trying to go around the outside of Matt Morris. Not quite able to get that move done, but that's some fantastic racing down through the Casio Triangle. It's also brought Craig Edwards into this fight.
Yeah, great respect for those guys running through the SEO triangles. Definitely not easy to go too wide through there. Everyone giving their fair share of racing rims. Edwards looking up the inside into turn 1, but not far enough into the corner.
He's not quite there, but he's certainly making the intentions known. He wants to get through, but the result of these three battling, they've really let Steve Lattimore off the chain here. He's just extended his lead now to 2.5 seconds. So he's not got a lot to worry about with this lot, but this is certainly the battle of the leading group, right?
See if we can bring up the time delta for Lattimore and Morris over the last 4 laps. See that on lap 3 the gap was only about 0.8 of a second, and then in that last lap that they've lost about 1.6 seconds, so all that battling is certainly costing that second, third and fourth position the chance of the win, unless they get a massive undercut through the strategy. But yeah, we know that Lattimore's pace throughout the whole series has been pretty much on point from the start of when we started covering the series all the way back at Mosport. So yeah, we certainly know Lattimore's true pace, and certainly showing it tonight.
Yeah, I think the great thing we're seeing as well is like the way the Ferrari's going, especially the Race on Oz guys, taking full advantage of that car, are really finding the fix setup working well for them. We see him well up the field. Obviously, Steve Lattimore leading. Justin Wallace, we got on screen now. Not quite going defensive yet, but not too far from it, doing a fantastic job in third. I mean, those guys have been a class act, especially the last 2 rounds that we've seen for him. Craig Edwards, we know he's there or thereabouts in most of the races, and for everyone who knows Craig, especially through some of the other endurance championships that have been run in Australia on the RS2, is very formidable competitor to come up against.
Yeah, I certainly know Craig's handiwork in the HPD when I was competing against him in the Oceanic Endurance Championship, so I know that he's a very experienced peddler in all types of cars, so it wouldn't surprise me to see him get past Wallace that quickly, but Wallace is defending extremely well, and all credit to him.
And all 3 drivers really have shown a lot of respect with this battle. No one's put a wheel wrong, really. They've both gone defensive when needed to and kept the door open when required. So I think the 3, while it is bleeding time off, obviously, to Lattimore, they're still managing to maintain that gap over William Mitchell behind them in the Pulse Racing Porsche. So they're actually, if anything, extending that little gap, but just losing touch of the leader.
Yeah, speaking of other battles in GT3 at the moment, we got, is that Matt Allison running wide at the Dunlop curve, and Martin Casey trying to go up the inside, but that defensive move from Allison was preventing the move from Casey. So Allison leads Casey, Cherisaria only 2.1 seconds behind, so he's still well within the fight. Is Allison running very, very deep at 180R. He'll be able to get the traction out, but those tyres certainly on the bleeding edge of grip at the moment. Heading up the spoon now, gap still only 0.3 of a second. As they're coming through the double left-hander, see whether Casey's able to get a good exit onto the back straight, heading up to 130R.
And both cars at the moment looking very, very consistent. Just looking at the lap time last time by, there was only a 100th of a second between both drivers. So while they are battling as hard as they are, the pace isn't really being impacted right now. And Casey a little bit of understeer through 130R, but able to close it back down again, down into the Casio.
Yeah, Casey was able to take a lot more curb at the Casio Triangle. That brought him back into the gearbox of Allison. Certainly going to look for a move up the inside this time. He's certainly got the nose in. really go for it. He's not going to be able to get up the inside. He'll have to fall back in line. This time, as we are currently on lap number 7 of this race, currently 12.5 minutes elapsed in this 45-minute race.
And I'm a little surprised that we saw Casey not quite able to have the legs on Allison, especially given the run that he got getting out through Casio Triangle there. It looked like he was really closing that gap down, and if anything, under a tenth of a second. So should have had the steam on it, but I don't know, maybe just playing that little bit of a move, sit in behind, save the fuel that you can, and just keep applying the pressure and hopefully force Allison into a bit of a mistake there. But they've got themselves a nice bit of a gap at the moment over Andrea Carusa, currently sitting in third in the Mercedes, and they're up about 1.6 seconds over him at the moment.
Yeah, we've got Rob Gray down in 18th overall. Currently, he's trying to make his way back through the GT3 field. He come through the pit lane within the last lap or so. So it looks as though that he'll be going to the end from where he is right now. The only three drivers that are pitted as Galenzi and Matterford will come down the lane as well. Martin Crisp, who's 1 lap down as well, must have had issues at the start, or he was the driver that was flipped over on his roof, that contact from Malcoin. So he's certainly not out of the race, but still a long way back to make up any positions.
Yeah, absolutely. Another one battle that I'm just keeping an eye on to a little further up is Benjamin Faulkner and Jeremy Clark. Those guys are battling here for 8th and 9th at the moment. Last time by, it was only a tenth of a second between them. It looks like the gap starting to widen out a little bit more between them, so I'm not sure whether that was a bit of an off track there for Clark or not, but he was only a few tenths of a second behind this group.
Oh, and who is that? I think that's Adam Gardner. He spun around at the Degner too.
Yeah, we'll need to see if we can get a replay of what happened there, but so a couple of cars involved in that. So
just got a replay up at the moment, coming through the Dunlop curve. Getting through Declan 1, just runs a little bit wide and finds himself bouncing up on the curve and just goes too deep, and then just tries to get himself sorted out. And you got a couple of the Ferraris for Race on Oz, and yeah, finds himself I think that was Kenneth Latter that made contact first, and then Benjamin Faulkner in the aftermath of that. So Adam down into 11th place in class, 14th overall. Certainly not the mistake he wanted to make in this early part of the race. Still got just under 2/3 of this race to go, so he'll be able to at least recover. We'll see that Edwards and Latter have decided to take their stops into the pit lane as well. That's actually quite a lot earlier than I would have expected, but hopefully they'll be able to try and play the strategy to jump the cars ahead of Morris and Wallace, and potentially Lattimore as well.
Yeah, I think that move of Edwards coming down the lane early, probably a smart bet. We saw them in a very strong battle earlier on. He was fighting with Matt Morris and Justin Wallace, so to get out of that air and set himself up with a bit more pace, probably not a bad way to go. William Mitchell up on screen, just making a move on one of his GTE teammates there. Continuing on, he found himself up in 4th with that stop for Edwards and Gardner having dropped out. So looking pretty good at the moment, up 1.7 seconds off the back of Justin Wallace, and still, the Porsche looking very, very sharp out there tonight.
Yeah, that was his teammate of Grant Matterford. That was that GT3 car that Mitchell was putting a lap on. So one driver that we haven't really talked about at the moment is Scotty Gamble, who finds himself in the top 5 in GT3 at the moment in his Audi. He's got a 3.5 second gap to Damon Stockton up ahead. Certainly been putting in some strong lap times at this time, as I have a little bit of a technical glitch for 1 second. That's as everyone comes back into the server. Last time around for Gamble was a 58.9. Last time around.
It was great to see the Audi still being represented. One of two out on track tonight in the GT3 class. The other one being driven by Michael Whiting, currently down in 22nd overall. But yeah, nice to have a couple of the Audis out there, especially given the strength of both the BMW and the Mercedes.
Yeah, I see that Matty Allison has put in the fastest lap. Oh, sorry, his personal best of the race, so 58.0. Martin Casey with the fastest lap in GT3 at the moment on 1 minute 57.8. See that Rob Gray trying to overtake Scotty Gamble as he runs wide through 130R. Not able to get the run for that section of the track. He'll try and look through the overtake into turn 1, but with that gap at the moment, I don't think he'll be able to get the move done. Let's see that Stockton has Vandenberg behind him as well, so Vandenberg trying to recover after his pit stop.
Yeah, a little bit of an unforced error, half opening the door there with the BMW coming through. They get that one readdressed though, which is good.
Yeah, just looking at just going to look at the battle also with Matty Allison and Martin Casey as well, still 0.4 of a second gap, so this battle is certainly stayed as it is for the time being. Casey only 0.05 of a second slower last time around, but that slipstream still helping him very, very much as he gets a solid run out of 180R, but Allison also gets a good run.
Yeah, the gap increasing just a touch there, up to 0.3 of a second as they make their way down into the spoon curves here. And you see Casey start closing up a little bit on the initial entry, but dropping off a little bit mid-corner there, but he'll get a fantastic toe down the back straight as we see Alliston going a bit wide over the ripple strip there. And it doesn't look like it's impeded him too much, but we'll keep an eye as they make their way up towards 130. You see Alliston going a little bit defensive, just trying to unsettle him there, and they both get a good run through. Not too much curb used, which is great to see. And Allison able to go just a touch defensive into Casio Triangle, not too much in it, but surprise Casey gets a great run through the mid-corner, but just not enough to be able to close up enough on the front straight.
Yeah, that compromise line certainly helped hurt Allison as Casey's trying to go around the outside. He's not going to be close enough into turn 1. But yeah, that run out of spoon curve for Allison, certainly very, very treacherous if you get on the gravel out there. Caught myself into the outside wall quite a lot of times in my own previous races in GT3 and open wheel categories. Certainly more detrimental to your progress if you're in an open wheeler due to the fact that those cars don't have traction control as GT3 does, but also see that Kenneth Latta trying to put a move on Martin Casey trying to get the overall overtake as he's not able to get through.
And this is going to be pretty imperative for Latta to get up there. He's already come down the lane for his one stop tonight. Does need to try and push past this battle if he wants to get up on the back of Craig Edwards, who's currently got himself back out in 8th spot after his earlier stop as well. So the pit stop times, while pretty well identical with Edwards, does fall in behind this little battle, and he's cleared one of the cars there. He's already passed Martin Case. He's got Matt Allison just ahead of him, and being the two teammates for Race on Oz, I don't think these guys will really want to cause much of a battle, but it has certainly impeded Martin Casey's battle for the lead of the race in GT3.
See Benjamin Faulkner into the pit lane as well. So he's decided to take his stop for the race. Just coming up on half distance right now on lap number 12. So we're looking at a 26 to 27 lap races ladder up the inside of Allison. He gets the job done on his teammate.
And that was a great move between both drivers down through the Casio Triangle. Probably the best place to do it because you're bleeding the least amount of time possible in doing so there. So great move from both of them. That'll set Ladder free now to get up to the back of Craig Edwards, but he's got a lot of work ahead of him if he wants to close that down. At some 19 seconds at the moment, so that's a long way between positions.
Yeah, so having a look at the battle between Sanfilippo, Newton and Markowski. Battle for 5th, 6th and 7th in GT3 at the moment. This is Sanfilippo.
I was just going to say, all three of these cars still yet to stop to come down the lane, but very, very competitive and comparable in lap times between all three last time by. All in the 159s for all three drivers, and this gap, not much between them. They all have managed to move up quite a few spots, though, since the start of the race.
Yes, he's got to gamble into the pit. Oh, just coming out of the pit lane as well. So he's decided to take his stop with a 15.1 second stop, so a little bit slower than his competitors around him. But he might be revisioning for that one extra lap. That has been quite common in timed races where you think that you're going to be safe on the normal amount, but then the GTE leader is so fast that he forces the extra lap.
Yeah, and getting that fuel mileage right around here is certainly going to be a tricky one, similar to what we saw last week out at Sebring and you know, with Silverstone as well. Getting the numbers as close to possible, just to come across the line with nothing in the tank is very hard to do. But you know, if you're able to get it right, it will save you a lot of time. Looks like Pat Gallo for the Mark 1 Esports team has jumped in the lane for his stop tonight. He's currently, while stationary, dropped down into 11th position now as he rejoins the race.
See Vandenberg, his teammate, just coming up behind him. On who is that? That's Betty Faulkner making a mistake on the exit of turn 1.
That will drop Ben down to 10th there as well by the looks.
Yeah, and also that'll bring Rob Gray back into the fray as well. But yeah, I think that he's about 10.1 seconds off this battle between Vandenberg and Gallo. But it'll bring him a step closer to Benjamin Faulkner. You see there was a couple of positions change overall for Allison and Casey moving up. You see that Matt Morris is into the pit lane. And there was a car off at 180. That would have been, I think that would have been Martin Crisp or, yeah, I think that may have been Martin Crisp, but that was off the circuit. They're just letting these GTE cars go.
Jeremy Clark up on screen. Having a pretty quiet night tonight, it must be said. Hasn't come down for the stop as yet, sitting in 4th outright after those earlier issues that we saw there. But lap time's very, very consistent from him at the moment. Last time by 1:55.3, so the Porsche still working very well. Does still have that stop to come, but the leaders just ahead of him in Lattimore, Wallace and Mitchell, likewise still yet to pit. So could be a bit of a shake-up when they do come down and decide to take their pit stops. But all in all, do a very good drive from Clark tonight.
So that both GT3 leaders are into the pit lane at the moment. So Allison and Casey have taken to the pit lane. We'll see whether Stockton decides to go on, and he does. So Stockton is currently in the lead of GT3 as we speak. He will probably be in the lane within the next 2 to 3 laps due to the fuel mileage of the tanks in the series. Also Markowski and Clark are onto the podium at the moment provisionally, but yeah, with their stops to come, they'll fall behind Allison and Casey, as Allison is out through to turn 1 at the moment. Casey 7 seconds behind, so Casey lost a little bit of time in the pit lane, but I think he took a little bit of extra fuel, assuming that there is potential for one extra lap, as William Mitchell is into the pit lane.
Yeah, I guess the other thing we need to think of here is there is a 7 second difference in the stop time, so that could even be a potential taking a tyre, which might help you out in the long run, especially that right front, which works very hard around this circuit. You know, you think you got around the likes of Spoon Curve, 180R, that tyre does take a lot of punishment. So potential that Casey has taken a tyre, which if he has, we'll keep an eye on the lap pace as well, because if he has, that's certainly going to bring him back into the fray pretty well. Steve Lattimore up on screen. What can we say? Led start to finish. Got himself a 7-second lead over Justin Wallace in the second race on Oz Ferrari after Matt Morris came down the lane for his stop tonight. So these guys looking pretty good all in all. The one thing I did note too that we haven't really touched on yet, Craig Edwards, who was the first of the front runners to come in for his stop, has actually managed to jump Matt Morris. So that early pit stop for Craig working out a bit of a treat, and he's got himself at the moment a 6.5 second gap over Matt Morris.
Yeah, just looking at the gap as well between Edwards and Lattimore, it's under the pit lane time that we've seen, well, the fastest pit lane time that we've seen from anyone. So there's a potential for Edwards to jump even Lattimore after the pit stops have cycled through, which should be in the next lap or two from where we are. Currently, Lattimore about to start lap number 16.
It looks like Lattimore's actually jumped down the lane for his stop now, so we'll keep an eye to see where he pops out. We would like to think that he will be back out in front of Craig Edwards following the lead that he managed to accumulate. We got up the little track map here so you can see as Craig Edwards making his way down to 130R, tipping it in. Lattimore still yet to get to the box, so he's just got there now. It also looks like Jeremy Clark's come in as well in his Porsche too, so Craig Edwards could potentially get up in front if he gets a good run here, which he does through the Casio triangle onto the front straight.
So Lattimore just coming out of the pit lane right now. Bit of a late jump onto the accelerator out of the pit lane, but yeah, Lattimore retakes the lead, well, still has the lead, sorry, after the effective pit stops of Wallace, who hasn't taken to the pit lane yet, so he'll be in the lane within the next 1 or 2 laps. Currently got a 25-second lead over Lattimore at the moment, but yeah, he'll slot back in, potentially in the second or third position after the stops.
And while we focus on this, we should actually quickly jump back down here to Alex Newton and Scott Gamble. Those guys are battling currently over 17th and 18th at the moment, only 0.4 of a second between them. And very, very racy. Alex Newton has come down the lane for his stop. Actually, both drivers have come down for their one and only stops tonight. So looking pretty good between these guys. Currently sixth and seventh, in class at the moment. And if anything, the closest battle we've currently got up on screen.
I see that only Clark in the GT3s has not taken to the pit lane just yet, but it should be fairly imminent as Justin Wallace is into the pit lane right now. So we'll keep an eye on that gap as well. There's Gamble not close enough into the Casio triangle, only 0.3 of a second behind, but he'll get the run out of the final corner into the slipstream. It's not making any inroads at the moment from what I can see. Trying to look up the inside, but not close enough to be able to make the move, and he makes the dive up the inside and he'll get the move done. So great move there from Scotty Gamble to move himself up into P6.
Yeah, that was a fantastic move. Come from a little way back and got it down the inside, braked and turned in quite nicely. He's now got Dave Trevathan there in the Stealth Sim Force Mercedes just in front of him, second and a half up the road. So we'll see whether these two are able just to now settle down and work on closing up that gap up ahead. But GT3 tonight, heavily dominated by the BMW, and those guys are currently taking the top 4 steps.
Yeah, we've kind of just seen that over the course of the season, that the BMW's been very, very strong. Also too, that the Mercedes has been up there on its day as well, as same with the Audi as well, as the second to last driver of Lee Vandenberg has taken to the pit lane as well. But yeah, like as I say, like through the course of the season, we've seen different manufacturers being able to be strong on different days as well. So it's been a credit to the AMF organisers to be able to create a substantial BOP to be able to not favour one particular car as well.
Absolutely, and the BOP, I mean, for all these cars is really, really well done. Adam Gardner up on screen at the moment. Probably not to forget for him, having that earlier spin down through the Degners there and subsequent contact with one of the Race Hours Ferraris. But he's in 12th, I think, at the moment, 1 lap or nearing 1 lap down off the pace. So he'll need to just be careful that he doesn't go down a spot. But after those pit stops have all shaken out, looks like Steve Lattimore continuing to lead out front. Craig Edwards for Fusion Sim Racing just behind him, and his teammate Justin Wallace for the Race on Oz cars in 3rd as well. So a little bit of a shake-up there. Matt Morris finds himself in 4th, and we saw him right at the start having a strong battle with Wallace and Edwards over 2nd place. So not too far behind, but he's certainly got a little bit of work ahead of him if he does want to catch up. The next car ahead, 3.5 seconds up the road from him. In GT3, Matt Allison is got himself a substantial lead at the moment over who have we got in 3rd, Martin Casey, and then Damon Stockton as well. So some pretty big gaps opening up all over the field at the moment. And I think, if anything, the closest we've got is going to be the battle with Roy Clark and Nick Senefilippo scrapping over. Where is that? 19th and 20th at the moment. These guys only 0.4 of a second behind.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. There was another car in this battle as well. That must have been Alex Newton that's been able to gap this little group here. So it's been good to see him get that a little bit further up in the field. He's moved up 3 positions from where he started. Roy Clark up 8. He is the biggest mover of the race in terms of positions gained. With the drivers that have fallen the most, sadly we've got retirees of Andrea Terrasara and Damon Mulqueen with that contact at the Casio Triangle within the first 10 minutes of this race.
Yeah, all in all, though, with only having a couple of drivers go by the wayside tonight, it's still been a fantastic running from all the guys out there so far. And Senefilippo just having to negotiate Craig Edwards coming through, and that looks to have been taken care of now. And these guys not too far off the back of Gamble and Newton, but you know, we're seeing here in the timing and scoring, it is that gap still extending, so we may not potentially see these guys close in, but looks like Gamble at the moment not quite getting the legs on Trevathan, who's sitting up in 4th, but last time by, the lap pace for Gamble still quite consistent, a 1:59.8, a little slower to about half a second than what we've seen though from Dave Trevathan just ahead of him, who popped in a 1:58.8. So that gap we'll keep an eye on. We've just got it down the bottom corner there just so you can have a look. You can see Gamble making a little bit of an inroad, laps 14, 15, and then again starting to lose that gap after the battles there that he had with Alex Newton.
Yes, we're coming up into the final 20% of this race. Just going to bring you an update on the track temperatures to see how the weather has been affected over the course of the race. And just to say that the track temperature's fallen a couple of degrees, but the ambient temperatures stayed the same. Currently with the wind, it hasn't changed much, northerly at a 14 km/h wind, so that's still been pretty consistent throughout the race, which has certainly been putting a great challenge on the drivers. In saying that though, Allison still only 0.7 of a second ahead of Gardner, that is not necessarily for a class position at the moment. But saying that though, he's still holding a 9-second lead. Oh, sorry, no, it's a 5-second lead over Martin Casey. So Allison putting a very, very strong performance, as always, being able to get that Delta Force Racing BMW of Martin Casey.
Yeah, I'm still interested to see with Casey whether, we'll probably find this out hopefully at the conclusion of the race, whether he did take a tyre, because I'm just keeping an eye on the lap pace, and last time by, Casey was a full second quicker than what we saw from class leader Allison. So the BMW of Casey working quite well at the moment. Actually, he's one of, if not the quickest car in GT3, sorry, at this time on track.
Yeah, Jaden Trevathan as well in the 58s as well. He's been very, very quick in this latter part of the race as well. Sadly, he's about 15 seconds behind Damon Stockton for the final podium position. So not able to challenge for the final podium position. See that Morris and Mitchell, I think, temporarily changing position for 1 second. That must have been just a small connection issue on their side. Who's that? That's Adam Gardner around at the final part of turn 1. So we'll just get a quick replay on that one. Heading into turn 1 and under brakes, but yeah, just gets on that AstroTurf on the outside there, and yeah, just a bit of an unfortunate mistake there to loop the car at the final part of turn 1. Certainly being sadly a night to forget for Gardner after his strong performances over the last couple of weeks, but certainly he'll be able to bounce back for VIR next week.
Absolutely, VIR is going to present its own lot of unique challenges, similar to what Suzuka has done tonight. And for the guys who know VIR, are much more. Well, it's a great flowing circuit. It requires a lot of commitment, pretty much the entire way around the circuit, much like Suzuka tonight. But yeah, certainly the guys will have a great reset. We've got Damon Stockton up on screen, currently third in class, and he's putting in a great run tonight in the BMW there. And setting some very respectable lap times as well. So he's done a fantastic job, up 7 spots from where he started tonight. So yeah, certainly a great one. Although just put the commentator's curse on him, a little bit of a wobble through Spoon, didn't put the car into the wall at all, which is great, and he's able to get back underway.
Yeah, that was just a overall position change between Gardner and Stockton. Thankfully it didn't damage Stockton's reputation too much with that overall position change, but yeah, Trevathan 14.3 seconds. He'll probably be just going through the back straight right now, so that just goes to show you how far 14 seconds of a gap is. The only other battle that we've got on track at the moment is between Pat Gallo and Benjamin Faulkner. 7/10 of a second gap and closing for Faulkner.
And Faulkner's been putting in some very good lap times. The split's been very consistent for him. The car working extremely well, and there's another good showing from another one of the race on Oscar. So Faulkner's been putting in some great performances over the last few weeks, and another one again tonight. Gallo certainly though going to be a lot of work for him to try and get past up in the BMW there, as we've got him on board down through 130R. Slight lift here, and you can really see just the way the Ferrari closes up into Casio Triangle. If anything, still taking a lot more curb than what we'd expect, and Gallo subsequently not using it as much as what we would have thought either. So both two very different driving styles and lines that both of these guys are taking, but Faulkner is closed right up here and looking to have a run down into turn 1.
Yeah, not as close as he would have liked to have been, was Faulkner. Trying to get the run out of the Casio Triangle, but not able to do so. That Ferrari's been very, very strong this week, as we've seen the top 3 being covered by all Ferraris, and the first Porsche in 4th position, and the first BMW being represented on the screen in Pat Gallo.
That was similar to what we saw earlier in the week as well with the IMSA series as well. The Ferrari extremely strong out on track tonight with that. But as we say that, we're down to just on 3 minutes to go in this one, and we'll still keep a weather eye just on this battle here with Faulkner and Gallo. Doesn't look like there's much opening up elsewhere down the timing and scoring at the moment. So we've got another Audi, that's Michael Whiting, just getting to the side of this little group so they can continue on. But yeah, these two very evenly matched at the moment.
Yeah, just looking at the timing screen right now that Lattimore's just crossed the line. Currently on his 23rd lap, so we'll have 2 to go from here. So we'll be on for a 25 lap race. Lattimore currently 11-second gap. Oh, sorry, no, it's a 1.2 second gap over Edwards. So Edwards has been able to close that gap quite substantially over the course of the second stint. It's been good to see from Edwards. See where they can close up over the course of the next 1.5 laps. It's going to be a very, very tall order, assuming that Edwards can close. But last time around, Edwards was about 0.6 of a second quicker than Lattimore, so he certainly got the pace to do so. But yeah, catching is one thing, but passing is another.
Oh, you couldn't put it any better. It's something that, you know, it's a bit of an art form in trying to get those cars working the way you need to. Just looking at the track map just to see what we got up ahead. Looks like all cars, they may not come into any trouble at the moment. Looks like Adam Gardner just ahead of these guys going through Spoon, and a couple of GT3 halfway down the backstretch there. So we may not see those guys manage to get in the way here, but yeah, they'll certainly keep the fight going between these two as they work down towards 130R now.
So with about 45 seconds left on the clock, we'll be in for the final showdown. 1 more lap to go. Gap between Lattimore and Edwards is just on 1 second at the moment, climbing down to about 0.7 of a second as they're coming through the Casio Triangle right now. So we've got 1 more lap to go. Last time around for Lattimore was a 55.1 and Edwards on a 54.5, so another 0.6 of a second gained for Edwards. Certainly within that window right now. Certainly.
And Edwards is really going to need to throw the surprise move down here. It's first chance you get. He's going to have a crack at it to if he wants to take a chance at winning this one tonight. The outright pace that he's got in that Ferrari is still really impressive, considering we're now 45 minutes in and time, and he's not up on the back of Lattimore right now. And the pace last time by, that 6/10 was fantastically for him to gain up and close up.
Yeah, with Edwards in the slipstream right now, I think that's going to hinder his progress a little bit. But the gap now under half a second. He's coming up into 180R right now. Edwards going to have to go deep under brakes to make up a bit of progress. And
I was going to say, while we keep an eye on this battle here, we have to keep an eye just on the timing and scoring a little further back with Latta, Gala and Faulkner all getting in a bit of a scrap as well for 6th place. So the fighting's starting to really heat up. Also got Scott Gamble closing up on the back of Dave Trevathan as well. So the fights are all starting to come together on this fight.
So here they come through 130R for the final time. Lattimore got the run on Edwards at the moment. He'll have to go defensive into the Casio Triangle as they're alongside each other, but Edwards goes too deep and that'll cost him the run and the chance at the win. So Lattimore holds off the charge from Edwards and will take round number 10 of the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Development Series here at Suzuka. So congratulations to him. Great effort from Craig Edwards to close that gap in the final closing laps, but sadly finished this in second. We'll go to the battle for 6th, 7th and 8th.
And Pat Gallo's got himself in a bit of a race on Oz sandwich at the moment with Kenneth Latta just in front of him and Benjamin Faulkner right behind. These three almost equal on track at the moment, and it's going to be a fantastic run down here through into the triangle to see whether we get a spot move. Looks like Faulkner trying to maybe see if we can sell him the dummy into the starter Casio, but I think Gallo will probably go defensive here and hold the spot.
Yeah, so that Gallo was looking to take the normal racing line, but it had to go defensive. So see that. Oh, is that ladder running out of fuel, or did he get a slowdown penalty? And that'll promote Gallo up into the sixth position overall. So great move from Gallo to move up into the top 6. We'll have a look at our GT3 leaders at the moment. Got Matt Allison currently leading at the moment over Martin Casey, who's managed to close up 0.7 of a second gap as they're out of the sprint curve right now. I don't think Casey will have the ability to close up, but you never know whether he's got the grip to do so. They're coming through 130R right now. Allison certainly to the tune of about 0.4 of a second. He's going to go defensive. Casey trying to do all he can, but he's not going to get the run. So Allison takes the GT3 class win for the Aussie Mix and Fix GT Development Series, and congratulations to him. A race on Oz Delta Force Racing's Martin Casey taking 2nd position. Trying to see as my timing screen has gone all over the shop.
Yeah, and it looked like we had Damon Stockton in 3rd place as well for Synergy Sim Racing, so that's a great result for him there. Dave Trevathan 4th in class, and Scott Gamble nearly getting the job done and climbing into 4th in 5th.
Yeah, I think it was just the fact that all of the GT3 up to 3rd position was lapped by the GTE leaders, so that's why my timing screen went all haywire, but certainly had a lot of action throughout the race, as we saw with Lattimore and Edwards in the final part of the race. So yeah, it was lots of action, and certainly one that is going to be talked about for a long time for sure.
Absolutely. I think all drivers out there put on a fantastic show for us tonight, and to have everyone come down to the wire at the last lap was fantastic to see, especially when we thought it might have been almost a done deal with given how far those gaps had extended. To close up the way it was absolutely fantastic. And that being said, we'll bring up the grid and we'll go through where everyone has finished officially.
So in the GTE results, we've got Stephen Lattimore taking the overall win. 1.9 seconds over Craig Edwards at the end there. Justin Wallace finished in 3rd, 15 seconds back from Lattimore. Matt Morris had a promising start of the race, but yeah, sadly fell back to 4th position at the end there. William Mitchell in 5th position, Pat Gallo, Benjamin Faulkner, Kenneth Latta, Rob Gray, Lee Vandenberg rounding out the top 10, Adam Gardner. Sadly, he had one round to forget, but certainly he'll be able to bounce back next week for VIR, and then Jeremy Clark rounding out the field in the GTEs. In the GT3 category, Matty Allison taking the win. Just under a second gap from Martin Casey, who was able to close up about 4.5 seconds over the course of the last stint to be right on the gearbox of Allison, but was not able to get the win in the end, sadly for him. But Damon Stockton rounding out the podium in the GT3. Dave Trevathan finishes 4th. Scotty Gamble recovering nicely into the 5th position. Alex Newton in 6th. Nick Sanfilippo in 7th. Roy Clark in 8th. Jason Markowski in 9th, and rounding out the top 10. Solid result for Michael Whiting. Grant Matterford in the 11th position. Martin Crisp in 12th. Sal Galenti in the 13th position, and our retirees, Andrea Cherisara, Damon Mulqueen, will be rounding out the field for the 15th position.
As we just wait for all the guys to filter in for the interviews. It looks like we've got a couple in here, so we might bring up race winner tonight, Steve Lattimore, and we'll start proceedings off with.
Hey, Matt.
G'day, Steve. Congratulations on the win tonight, mate. Fantastic drive out there. You come under a lot of pressure at the end of the race with Craig Edwards, and you guys look to be putting on a fantastic battle the whole way through.
Oh, yeah. Cheers, fellas. Yeah, it's always good to get one up on Craig. He's quite a competitive driver. He had a little plan with his pit stop. Paid off for him very well. The back markers didn't make my life so easy in the back end of the race. Let him close right up on me, but that's multi-class racing.
Absolutely. And speaking of that, how did you find it out there tonight? Obviously, you managed to get yourself a fantastic jump on the opening lap when the safety car pulled away. And how did you find, obviously, being a fixed setup? How was the Ferrari handling tonight? It looked extremely dominant from all the guys that were running.
It's a little bit oversteery for the S's. The Porsche is just supreme around for the S's. But, yeah, on the fast-flowing stuff, it was pretty good. Setup-wise, the tyres last. They're good enough. I run them during the week in the official series if I choose to do one. And usually it puts me up in the top 5 with some strong strength of field. So the setups are usually go the distance for a race.
Yeah, you're saying with the back markers closing in, and I'm sure you were keeping an eye on Craig Edwards the moment he dropped off the back of the field early on to take that early stop. He looked like he had a great run down at you through 130R and down into the triangle. Was it your plan, if he got close enough, always to try and see what you could do to hold that line and not make it too?
Oh, yeah. On the last lap there, I was just going to defend. I don't care if he was 50 car lengths back, so I was just defending, just to let him know there's no way I'm letting him pass.
Fantastic, mate. Well, next week we're off to VIR. Probably a few spots you can take out of here tonight, similar up through the S's and that, up through the hills, obviously, at VIR. I guess you guys looking forward to that. We're likely to see you back out there for that one next week.
Oh, most definitely. I love IR. It was the first track I actually bought in this game before even Bathurst, as it was a track I'd never seen before. And I've just taken it and raced it as much as I possibly can. It will be good to take the GTEs around there for the first time. I'm more used to taking the V8 supercars around there. But yeah, we'll see how next week all goes, and hopefully a good, strong, solid result for me and the other guys on the team. Matt done really well. Justin got the third, so that was really good. Justin backed up from Scott's Enduro tonight, so he done quite an impressive job and done quite well in that as well. So yeah, hopefully we can continue this on to next week.
Absolutely. No, another fantastic display from the Race on Oz boys, mate. But before we let you get out of here and enjoy the win, was there anyone you'd like to give a bit of a thanks?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Harvey Bay Auto Glass for your auto glass needs. Thank Harvey Bay Auto Glass. Race on Oz, all the boys over there on the forum, Hayden if he's watching, and Ty and so forth. All the sponsors over at the forum. Apex for putting it on broadcast-wise, and AMF for putting the event on each and every week for us.
Fantastic, Steve. Again, congratulations on not only the outright win, but also class win tonight for yourself and the Race on Oz boys. And we'll look forward to catching up with you next week, hopefully at
Thank you very much, fellas.
Thanks, mate. All right, up next we've got Craig Edwards. Craig, fantastic result, mate. Congratulations on second place tonight. Mate, you had us all guessing with that early pit stop, but paid dividends with the back end of the...
Yeah, thanks very much. I couldn't see any way to get past Justin and Matt there in the early running. I thought I had maybe a couple of tenths in clear air pace, so as soon as I saw that I could come out in a block of clear air after the pit, I went for it, and yeah, it did pay off quite nicely.
Absolutely, and I mean, how were you finding the Ferrari out there? I think that early a bit of bottle log with Matt and Justin probably didn't help too much with proceedings, but obviously once you got the clear air, the Ferrari really showed its legs. And
yeah, no, it really leans out down those straights, and when you're not following, you're not going too badly through the corners either. I was having a really fun battle with Justin there early on, but I had to think about where I wanted to finish up at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. It's easy to get stuck into a few good battles and maybe lose sight of the bigger picture. But no, for you guys, fantastic drive for all the guys on the Fusion Sim Racing team. Was there any issues with back markers and lap traffic that you've found out there tonight?
Well, being the second one along, Steve was getting all the worst of it. So by the time I got to them, they knew I was coming, so I was able to be quite aggressive and push past in a couple of corners where I could sort of telegraph my moves, and that really brought me into the race there and gave me a chance right there.
Yeah, well, I must say, mate, fantastic conclusion to the end of this one. Really had us up on the edge of the seat watching you there, and I mean, you gave it all in that final run through the triangle. Not to be, unfortunately, tonight, mate, but a very solid second place, which is not only a great result for the night, but also sets you up well within the championship standings. And moving on to VIR next week, how do you feel about that circuit, and is it something that you're looking forward to a good show?
I have done very little running at VIR. I have a little bit of trouble with some of the turns there down the back by the oak tree. But I do like the circuit, so if I can make it, I will certainly try and have a good.
Awesome, mate. We'll certainly look forward to catching you out on track for that. Before we let you go and enjoy the race tonight, or the proceedings from the race tonight, is there anyone you wanted to give a bit of a shout out?
Yeah, 100%. Fusion Sim Racing powered by AWS. Good day to all the boys there. And our sponsors, Eclipse Signage, Carter Plastering, and Dripping Paint.
Fantastic. Well, and congratulations again, Craig. Second tonight and second in class. Fantastic result for you, mate. And we'll look forward to seeing you all going well next week out at VR.
Thank you, Daniel. Yeah, hope so.
Cheers, mate. All right, and third place tonight, we have Justin Wallace, mate. Congratulations on the result. Great run for yourself and the team again, taking first and third tonight in the GT3 class. How were things out there for you?
Yeah, thanks, guys. Yeah, it was good. It was a hard battle the first half of the race with Matt, and had Craig behind me for a while until he pitted, and then second half of the race, I was pushing real hard to try and get past Matt, and I think I wore my tyres out a little bit because I was had a few little moments, and it was quite scary in some of those corners.
Yeah, well, the opening stint between yourself, Matt, and Greg looked to be really close. I mean, Matt doing a fantastic job in the Porsche to try and hold you guys behind, but we're a little bit. Were you thinking similar to probably Craig was at that point of taking the early stops, or were you just trying to push it along and see how far you could get into it before you needed to do that?
Yeah, I was thinking about it, and I saw Craig go, and I was worried about the traffic would pop in, so I thought I'll stay behind, see how we go, and then Matt pitted a few laps early, and then when I pitted, I came out a few seconds ahead, so I'm not sure if he came in traffic or just had a better pit stop.
Yeah, well, I'm just looking at the stop time for yourself. It was a 9-second stationary, which was quite quick comparative to who have we got? Craig. Actually, you're both pretty well equal as far as pit stop time. So I think probably just the in and out laps, maybe the little bit of a difference there. But yeah, all in all, a third tonight was a fantastic job. We've asked the other two guys. We'll ask you as well. Thoughts on VIR for next?
Yeah, looking forward to it. I haven't raced there in quite a while, to be honest. So, but it's a good track. I like it. So, yeah, looking forward to it.
Awesome, man. Well, again, all the best for, congratulations, I think. Not all the best. Congratulations for third tonight. Was there anyone you wanted to give a shout out and a thanks to for the help?
Yeah, thanks, guys. I'll thank Harvey Bay Auto Glass and the Race on Oz boys. I'll give thanks to AMF and you guys at Apex for putting on the show.
Fantastic, mate. Well, again, similar to the other guys, third in class tonight, third overall. Fantastic result for yourself, and we'll definitely look forward to catching up with you next week out at VI.
Thanks, Alice.
Yeah, needed to redeem myself after the VR froze coming out of tower last week, but no such problems this week, which was great. But yeah, Martin, I just couldn't get away from him at the start, and then something happened in the hairpin. I think it was lapped car, and he ended up touching the grass and flying behind me, and got a bit of a gap there. But then I took the opportunity to jump in for pits, and I did my fuel numbers based on the GTEs lapping us, and I was about 4 to 5 liters too short. So I had to do a lot of fuel saving there towards the end, and just coughed going over the line. Well, to be honest, I've never actually raced VIR in any simulator or anything, so it's a completely brand new track for me. So my expectations aren't high. Yeah, just the boys that race on Oz iRacing team, Harvey Bay Autoglass, Ian Smee, and the lads Ryan and Century Batteries Lismore, as well as Apex TV for broadcast. Cheers, mate.
Yeah, that was a race. I had a bit of trouble. Oh, with the back there for a bit, but I think running short on fuel, so I got up, got close, enjoyed it. Oh, yeah, I was trying. I thought I might get him, but make it crash. So take it easy. But, yeah, he's a good racer. It's hard over. Yeah, I'm not sure where the race is next week, but looking forward to it. I think got tied up. Sure, got looking forward to it. Bring on. Yeah, the Delta guys, all our sponsors, Uber and Adrian Guard Care. Shout out to Ryan, work he does on the series. You guys do a great job. All right, thanks very much.
How's it, boys? Thank you. Yeah, no, was pretty lucky with it. It's already really busy at the beginning of the race. Made a few passes at the start, but after that, just ran by myself. Just kept out. Yeah, possibly. Towards the end of the race, I kind of just backed right off. Was watching the fuel quite closely, coughed over the line a little bit. But yeah, start better. I guess you finish better sometimes. But no, it was a good race all around. Honestly, just to have fun, really. This was my first race of this season, so yeah, just in it for fun now. Yeah, just a quick shout out to DPR Racing, Southwell Hoists for the sponsoring us 3R Racing. Other than that, but yeah, thank you to Aussie Mix and Fix and you guys for putting. Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, VIR is certainly a bit of a crowd favourite of mine. Opens up a lot of fantastic racing. Fast flowing circuit. Does require a lot of precision in a couple areas, especially up through turns 1-2 complex before you start your run, leading up towards the hills and down towards the oak tree. And those corners being a little bit off camber and a lot slower than what you really expect when you initially turn in does make it very hard to get an idea of where you're going there at times. All in all, though, the circuit itself going to really provide some great racing all around, whether it be guys trying to get a run up through the S's, as you say, down towards the oak tree, which is if you can get the car turned in enough on the initial part, can lead for a really fantastic pass. Having said that, can also bring a tear to the eye if you do get it all out of sorts and all wrong. But if you get it right, you can get a fantastic run up that back straight. And then you've got the roller coaster ride down to complete the lap, which is absolutely fantastic when you get those corners right and you can flow it up over the curbs. The car goes fantastically well there. And I think from what we've seen so far with both the GT3 and the GTE cars, they're going to do phenomenally well around there. We normally see that for any of the one who watches the real life IMSA race there that goes in, year out. They only run the two classes, and those two classes put on a fantastic show. And I think that's going to be exactly what we're going to be in for next week. Having said that, I'm sure there's a few guys from tonight's race though that are going to be looking to turn their nights around and get a little bit better result. The likes of Adam Gardner, unfortunately, probably, as we said it a couple of times tonight, to forget for him tonight. And Damon Mulqueen having that issue early on in the first 10 minutes and putting himself out. So those are a couple of guys who we know have been very good racers throughout this series, and no doubt going on to VIR next week, really looking to put a good foot forward.
Yeah, certainly we'll be able to just give you a bit of an overview of what's coming up on Apex Racing TV over the next week. We've got the Apex Racing League British GT Championship for round number 2 of that championship. That'll be starting at 19:10 GMT at Brands Hatch. So that'll be later on tonight. So certainly look forward to tuning into that one. On Monday night, we've got the World GT Championship for round number 5 of that championship. That'll be at the Imola circuit. That'll be starting at 19:15 GMT. Coverage for that will be on the iRacing Esports Network. Alongside that, at the same time, we've got the BSR MX5 Monday Cup for round number 11 of that championship at Mid-Ohio. That'll be starting at also at 19:15 GMT. Later on Monday night and heading into Tuesday morning GMT time, we've got the Rickmatech GT Championship for the second round of that championship at Belle Isle. Coverage for that will be starting at 23:45 GMT on Monday night. On Tuesday, we've got the iRacing IMSA Sports Car Championship for round number 11 of that championship, and that will be starting at VIR as well. So any of the drivers that are wanting to get in practice for Sunday night's Aussie Mix and Fix will be certainly wanting to get some practice in for that one. Coverage will be starting at 10:45 GMT on Tuesday. Also, that'll be starting at 18:45 Australian Western Standard Time. So if you're not racing, we certainly hope to see your company there for that one. Later on the Tuesday night, we've got the Racing VRS GT Sprint Championship for round number 11 of that championship at Summit Point. Coverage will be starting at 1800 GMT. Then 19:15 GMT, we've got the BSR MX5 Pro Series for the 23rd round of the championship at Mid-Ohio. On the Thursday night, we've got the BSR TC Pro Series in the Kias for the 3rd round of the showdown at Interlagos. That'll be at 19:10 GMT. On Friday, we've got the iRacing Le Mans Series for the 11th round of the championship at Circuit of the Americas, and that will be the 1900 GMT split for that one. So then on the Saturday, we've got the final round of the Sim Racers Asia Formula 3 Championship at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, and coverage will be starting at 1300 GMT, and the double header of the Euro V8s at Phillip Island for round number 4 of the championship. Coverage will be starting at 1800 GMT, and then we'll be back for the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Development Championship for round number 11 at Virginia International Raceway, and coverage will be starting same time as always on your screen at 10:45 GMT.
And I think with that, we must we'll get ready to say good night and thank you very much to everyone tuning in. Must also quickly mention the 2 sponsors on board helping continue to bring this great series with Century Batteries Lismore and RSM Race Management Services. Their support absolutely a must and essential for helping continue this one and bringing us the great racing we've seen tonight. Scott, thank you very much for coming in, helping with the cameras again, and jumping in for the commentary, mate. Very much appreciated. And to everyone who tuned in and gave up your Sunday night to come and watch this one, greatly appreciated. So for all of us here, wish you all the very best, and would look forward to seeing you next week at VIR.